Console Crusade podcast. We start this episode on a somber note, and that's because I fucked up again.
Another one.
EJ Olson, I'm here with Nick Durheim.
Yo.
And Chris Gillyford.
Not so easy in the chair, is it?
Everything we're about to say is going in last week's episode, so you've already heard it. This week, we're talking about games we played last year, games we're looking forward to this year. Let's look back on 2023 before we look forward to 2024. Talk about some of the games we played, some of our favorites, whether they came out last year or otherwise. Maybe we talk about some of the boners of the year. What did we suffer through that we decided not for us? Whatever you want to make of it. Nick, we're going to start with you because I know you got spreadsheets. You've got a log, as you always do.
I just have notes. I have a notes app that I write down the name of games after I beat them. So I can talk about the games that more than one of us played, which is several of these. Chris, I can't remember. Did you play Skyward Sword last year or was that 2022?
It was last year.
So we both went through that. I don't know if we really talked about it in any detail, but I had a pretty good time, but it was not the peak of Zelda gaming. I think we can both agree on that.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that I went through it. I'm glad that I played it before playing Tears of the Kingdom, despite knowing and being correct that there was zero tie-in besides a sound effect.
Yeah, I was going to say, man, when we got that Fee sound pretty early in Tears of the Kingdom, I was like, oh my God, I was right. And then it was never again until the end. That I was sad and wrong.
It was a little tease, a little tickle. That was Fujibayashi-san saying, I recognize you. Okay, I see you out there.
You are valid.
The real ones know.
But not that valid.
Not that valid, no. We also played, the three of us played Metroid Prime Remaster. And boy, what a way to start out the year. Just getting a really good version of one of the best GameCube games. And that was it. That was the only good remaster that came out last year of like that kind of ilk. Everything else was like a remake or like a big deal thing.
I don't think I'll ever forget sitting at Sarah's Aunt Pamela's house 3.5 hours before we were going to record the wrap-up pod, pulling up a fucking guide, trying to speed run the last couple hours of that game so I could at least experience the final boss before we recorded. And I was so sure I was going to get there, and you guys kept telling me it's not going to happen. And I said, I think it's going to happen. And then lo and behold, it did not happen. I had to look up a YouTube video of the final boss encounter, and then as is well chronicled on this fucking podcast, I got one shot by some space pirate and hadn't saved in hours and never went back and never finished the game, and I never will.
What was the last boss that you did fight? Did you do the Omega Space Pirate? Is that the name of that thing, Chris? I can't remember.
The Omega Pirate.
Yeah. There's the Omega Pirate, then there's the other pirate that you fight that's
Yeah.
Phazon Elite and he's like a mini boss, but the Omega Pirate is the big guy with like shoulder armor and like calf armor, and you blast that off and then he turns invisible. You have to use the X-ray visor to track him down, and then you can actually damage it while it's like restoring its armor, and that's kind of the rinse repeat. And then some trash mobs you can only kill with beam specific weapons to keep you juggling between stuff on your toes. Genuinely hard fight.
How close to the end of the game is that?
That's the second to last big boss, I would say.
Yep.
That's after Ridley, isn't it?
No, it's before. Then you do artifact cleanup. Once you get the Phazon suit, there's a couple that one specifically you can only really get with the Phazon suit, and then it's onto the temple to fight Ridley and go into the crater.
Yeah, so third to last big boss fight.
That game never fucking ends, I tell you what.
Yeah, the boss fights tend to drag on, especially if you're not using the beam upgrades, like the flamethrower and shit, which was my problem. I never used those things, so I just self-inflicted wound.
I'm glad we did it. I'm glad I did it. I think we had a good conversation about it.
It's good vibes, great music, makes me excited for Metroid Prime 4. It's gonna happen this year, maybe, Chris.
This year indeed.
We all played Tears of the Kingdom. We all sunk many dozens of hours into that game. Had a fantastic time. Better than Breath of the Wild in every way.
Seriously, everything about it was better.
Yeah, I can't think of one thing that I would look back to Breath of the Wild other than being in that Hyrule for the first time, but that's not really a thing the game does. It's a thing that I experience and now have a false sense of what that is because it's in the past.
I think those two things are like inextricably, like you can't separate those two things, right? They're intertwined.
You also can never go home again, so to speak. Like you'll never be able to go play Breath of the Wild and experience it for the first time. So it's important to you, but irrelevant to the context of which game is better. You know what I mean? Tears of the Kingdom literally improved on everything. And instead of your toolbox being a cute way to do some chintzy things, sometimes it completely blew the doors off what you could do at any given moment with anything and everything around you. And it just completely changed what kind of game that was. And I didn't think it was possible. I was so negative going into this game.
Yep, glorified DLC. I remember, there was a whole lot of that kind of talk.
Don't be dropping receipts here. I don't want no insert clips.
Insert clip.
I would have to use our our new ability to search for words and try and find that. I just remember that being a thing tweeted about. I don't remember. I'm not putting that specifically on you, EJ, but if you did say that, that would be hilarious.
We all were very skeptical about Nintendo's marketing strategy for this game and wondering what really exists here for us.
The bad trailers, like it took them 5 years to put out a good trailer for that game.
So there was maybe not skepticism that they would deliver a good product, but skepticism about what the game was and what we were really getting. And at the end of the day, it was so much more than any of us could have hoped for. And while I don't really have like that huge emotional attachment to my time with this game, this was a kind of a weird time going into summer. Personally, I was not in the headspace to really get attached to something, I think. But I definitely put the time in, and I liked the game very much. And I love how broken it was, and I'm never going to update my game. Wait. Oh, no. I got a new Switch. I have not updated the game yet. But that also means that I'm on 1.0 and not
1.0.1 or whatever.
Or I was on like the third iteration, and that was like the sweet spot for glitches where like all the really messed up stuff that you would soft lock you got fixed, but I can still exploit the crap out of the game. I'm never going to be able to go back to that version of the game. Oh,
rip. Were you going to go back to that version of the game anyway?
You're not going back to that game at all, ever.
Maybe. I mean, who knows? I could. The way I ruled out Breath of the Wild, and I said this on the podcast probably 6 years ago, that is a game that I enjoyed my time with, but I would never go back to. Everything about that game was special because you got to experience it for the first time. The replay value is minimal in a world full of, I mean, literally infinite options. Tears of the Kingdom, I could totally see myself going back just to fuck around because there's so much to do and so many ways to do it.
I could totally see that, especially with just knowing all the different checklisty things that they added, the mini boss encounters that you could go do, the special Gleeok fights and stuff like that, like the whole downstairs in the caves, everything. There's so many different things. Chris did it all because he's a sicko.
Check.
Like he's literally waving his hand over here.
Check.
Leviosa
Check.
over here.
Check. Oh, I did
Got all
it
the Korok seeds, got all the fucking bubble frogs.
That's so insane, dude.
Yep.
That's true sicko shit.
EJ, I believe it was last year that you and I went deep on Risk of Rain.
Oh yeah,
to
baby.
played a lot of that, and you even mentioned recently that you've been dipping back and checking out the mod scene, seeing what all we could start playing around with again. We need to hop in, you, me, Lindsay, and Brennan. I don't know if there's, I think you could do more than 4 players. I think you could do like 8-person lobby. So if there's anybody else that you wanted to play with, like Chris, I know you have your hand on your forehead right there, but we're talking about on PC. So I mean, we could play on Switch also.
Oh yeah, no.
But it would be different. It would not have the mods. It would be it's several versions behind.
Yeah.
It recently got the DLC update though, so you can play what is it? Something of the Void? I can't remember.
I don't think it
They didn't get
runs on Mac. So
No. I have some friends that I've talked it up to. Brendan's talked it up to. Friends of the pod have listened, heard all of us gush about it one time or another.
They listened to the Rain formerly known as Purple or whatever.
Oh hell yeah, in the Music League, and which you won that week with that track.
Well, I knew I would get you and Brendan for sure.
of
So
course.
it was just a heart pick.
Yeah.
It's a great song.
So
it just
good.
rips. It's just such good. It's synthwave mixed with progressive metal. It's so good.
I just last night, Brendan and I got all of our mods updated, and today we were going to go through and see, because you have to, it's kind of unfortunate, you have to have all of the exact same mods installed, no more, no less, with all the people you're playing a modded scenario with.
Is there an easy way to share the mod list so that you can just distribute that and be like, here, download this, and it just has everything.
I don't know.
I don't know if that's built in.
It would be nice to figure that out, but we did update that. We're going to do it today, but Brennan lost power again. Poor guy.
Oh, no, dude. With the freezing rain today, too. This is like the actual nasty weather. Like before, it was kind of crappy and like the wind was nasty, but like the freezing rain is the killer. I just got a text actually from my work saying that they're closed down tomorrow as well. So if I even work this week, I'm doing a 1-day week. Like,
Let's
it's just
go,
stupid.
brother.
Same. We had snow all through the day on Monday and all through Monday night. So classes today got shit canned, and it's not good. It has been below freezing for 3 days, and it's not getting above freezing until next Monday. So tomorrow, class is also canceled. We have snow forecast for most of Thursday into Friday morning. I don't think I'm working this week.
Well, that's more problematic for you because you have to like completely recraft your curriculum for this term.
Yeah, well, yeah, I mean, yes and no, because yes, it means I lose a week of time I had allotted for different like scene units, but thankfully, because I'm not doing something like theater history where it's like, oh, I have to teach 4 things in 2 days now. I
Right.
just eat a week of something and everything moves back, and that is what that is. A lot easier to do that than the alternative. So I'm glad I don't have theater appreciation this semester. I'll tell you that. Tiffany's like, she's adjuncting this semester, teaching theater appreciation and film appreciation. She's like, I'm not even sending my syllabus to them until I know if we have class this week, because it's just going to change like the next day.
Right. Yeah. Hopefully this inclement weather will correct itself soon. We are all dealing with snow and ice at the moment, so we'll see.
Yeah, I just wanted to be nice enough because Lindsay and I have an Airbnb booked this weekend, so I want to be able to actually drive out to that and not be worried about getting stuck there or something. Like we had it booked last weekend, but obviously with the weather looking how it did, we asked them if they could push it back a week, and they were accommodating, so that's nice. So hoping that still works out.
You guys staying local, or you guys?
It's up in Vernonia.
Oh, nice.
Like near Astoria, I believe. It's like northwest tip of Oregon.
Very good. You guys will have a
Lovely.
nice time. Anyway,
Last year, I played a lot of Metroidvanias. Big fucking surprise. I played Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth, the the delightfully named. God, what is the first part of that? It is Records of Lodos War, which is a old manga and anime, sort of loosely based on Dungeons and Dragons, I think, or like some other tabletop RPG. And yeah, so the full title is Record of Lodos War, Deedlit in Wonder Labyrinth. Say that 10 times fast, which was a really good time, really chill, Castlevania-like, more so. I would say it's highly reminiscent of Symphony of the Night, backdash and everything, the upgrade system, all sorts of stuff. But with a cool sort of mix of, if you've ever played Ikaruga, it's a shoot 'em up on the GameCube that has your ship that you can change between black and white, and when there are white projectiles coming towards you, you change to that color, and then you can pass through them. So it's kind of got that vibe with these elemental attacks that I think are like wind and fire. But basically, you can change your elemental affinity to traverse through obstacles and also your opponent's attacks. So that kind of gives it a nice sort of juggle and balance. Like, oh, they're only weak to fire when they're in this mode, but if I want to dodge their abilities, I have to tap back and forth on the LNR triggers and stuff. So that was cool. Good combat, good music, good PS1 vibes all around. I also played Unsighted, which I do want to shout out again. That was a really, really good time. Would recommend. Less of like a 2D action platformer, more of a top-down sort of Zelda-ish experience, but it's still very Metroidvania in its traversal and the way you get upgrades and unlock new areas of the map.
this is the one with the time conceit.
Yes. I mean, it is not so much a time conceit as much as it is a mortality conceit, because there are characters that will die after a set amount of time, but there's no like time travel. Like you can get items that prolong their lifespan, but it's also the same items that you use to prolong your lifespan. So it's like, it's very limited. And then if you run out of life, it's like, I think it's like a game over. I think you just lose that game. So you have to make choices, which is cool. I like that aspect of it.
Make it hurt.
I also played Transruby. That was a very short little Metroidvania. Yeah, a lot of indies. I just cranked through a bunch. Blue Fire was a good 3D platformer. Hat in Time 3D platformer. Ender Lily is another Metroidvania. That was the sad anime, kind of 2D animation style one. Wavetail. That was like a 3D action platformer, kind of story-based, ecological sort of vibes. Oh, the world's flooded. It's kind of got like Wind Waker sort of feelings in that way, cel-shaded. You're skating around on the ocean and stuff. It was cute. Finished up Okami. I played a lot of games last year. I think I finished out at like 20-something games.
That's a good, healthy year. Did you have like a winter JRPG that you've recently been going through? Is Okami sort of the closest you got?
I mean, I was starting before summer. I'm trying to think of when I actually started it. I was playing, because I didn't actually start it. It's been one of those games I dip into here and there. I was playing Dragon Quest 11, which that is a super long game, so I can sort of like duck in for a dozen hours and dip back out, and I don't really feel like I miss out on too much. It's not really too difficult to pick back up. And then also I was playing Pokemon Scarlet or Violet, I mean, so that's sort of JRPG, right?
You know, we'll give it to you.
Besides that, Mario RPG, I did Mario and Luigi. I've had several RPGs, just not like the big megaton one that took a lot of my time.
The Xenoblade Chronicles DLC, you haven't got to that then?
I beat that. That was
you did?
like very early last year, yeah.
Was it? That was 2023 that I picked that up, not 2022, right?
Correct.
When did that come out?
That was like March, I think.
March
or April,
wow.
Yeah, that was before Tears of the Kingdom, I think. So,
whoa.
Man. Xenoblade DLC stays kicking.
What was your favorite game of the year that you played?
That's tough. That's tough. I mean, Skull Island is right there.
Rise of Skull Island. Kong's story.
Skull Island. Kong Skull, Rise of Island. I don't know, man. Zelda was so good. Future Redeemed was so good. Mario Wonder was so good. Risk of Rain Returns is so good. Like I beat that game in 2023, but I continue to play it because it is that game. So it's I can't pick a favorite out of my children.
That's fair. That's fair. Chris, you had a very interesting year with video games. You stay playing games, but you, as is well chronicled again on this podcast, you kind of went the Buddy Nate route, and you started over the summer doing your rotation where you were trying to squeeze in as much as you could. You really turned your hobby into a job there for a few months.
I did in the summer, and truthfully, the big reason I wanted to do it is going into Tears of the Kingdom. I knew that with Breath of the Wild, I consumed so much of that game sort of unilaterally with nothing else that I burned out and I dropped it. And it took me until I think the DLC for that game had come out for me to go back and actually finish it. And so I thought if I could mitigate my Zelda time with at least an hour a day of something else, and usually it ended up being more, that it would keep me from burning out and I could finish Zelda by the end of the summer to the degree to which I wanted to finish Zelda. And that is what ended up happening. Although in the last, I think, 3 weeks, I was looking at the calendar as we discussed on this podcast and went, I'm not going to fucking finish this game unless I stop playing everything else. And I did. And I had the stamina to do that because I had been alternating so many things. So yeah, it was a really interesting, it was an interesting year. I've got some bangers. I've got some definite boners. Some things that I tried in the rotation and then said, you know what? I don't need to play this and put them down. Or I don't need to play this now and put it down. Broadly speaking, cool year for me. Really cool year for me. Getting to start my year with one of my personal top 5 favorite games and maybe number 1 was incredible. Getting to end my year with one of my personal top 5 favorite games, maybe number 1, was incredible. I'm speaking, of course, about Metroid Prime and that beautiful, beautiful, loving remaster and the Mario RPG remake, which I liked and gave me lots of good feels and good cries and happy stims and time to play a game concurrently with my wife, which literally never happens ever. So that's way cool. That's way cool. Also fell down a Hades rabbit hole for 80 hours. I didn't realize until my Wrapped how much time I had put into that game. My Switch Wrapped, or whatever the fuck they call it, year in review. Yeah, right. That game is amazing. It is amazing. I love it. I am thrilled that part 2 is hitting early access. Thrilled enough that I'm kind of like, will that run on my computer? Like, I would play that game in early access to experience the way that it changes and be a part of that process, because I just cannot wait to play more Hades with new story and characters and systems and things like that. So Hades, fantastic. Introduced me to the roguelike genre formally, by which I mean gave me one that I actually liked. I tried Binding of Isaac for like 5 hours early in the Switch's life cycle and was like, this is not for me. The twin stick thing is not hitting. I don't like it. And I moved on. Oh my God. Yeah. That was a revelation. So 80 hours of Hades. That was most of my spring as I was settling into this new job and this new location. That was something that I could come back to that was really familiar and just go, I have 45 minutes until I have to get in the car and drive to campus. Like, that's at least one run if it's successful. Cause I think my runs were averaging like 27, 28 minutes, successful ones by the time I got to the end. It was either like I got the build I wanted and I just like fucked everything, or I got a really shitty build and I washed out really fast and just like go back and rerun. Hades was the big one of the spring for sure after Metroid Prime. Going into the summer, as has been discussed, I set up the rotation. Well, also the big thing this year is I bought a PS5. Finally bought a PS5. And before
you left at home.
That I left at home because I didn't want to fly it up to Anchorage. Well, keep in mind that this is the same.
Fair. Zelda.
Yeah, that I flew up 2 summers ago when I went up with Tiffany, and they left my bags with like all of my clothing in Fairbanks when we changed planes. So that was also hanging heavy over my head with do I really want my PS5?
To buy 2 PS5s.
Right, and I like to travel really, really light with what I physically bring with me on the plane. Like, I am that guy that they're like, oh, we could gate check your bag because we're running out of overhead space. I'm already at the counter. I'm like, take my bag. So that I can just have my little laptop bag with like my cables, my Switch, my computer, some snacks, my headphones. That's it. I like to be real light on the plane. I'm a big son of a bitch, and having stuff under the seat that takes up all my foot room, my legs start to fall asleep and get uncomfortable. EJ probably understands this very well, being a large man himself. It sucks. So anyway, PS5. Before I got up there, I played my first Resident Evil game, which was a fucking blast. The Resident Evil 2 remake. I did my first playthrough on PS4, did the free upgrade path to PS5, did my clear playthrough on PS5 before I got up there. Never been so excited to be scared in my life. The sounds that came out of my body are not like anything that I knew I was capable of producing, like involuntary wailing and bellowing and yelping like a kick dog, and just, it was great. And now I've got, well, I owned I had the first one as a PS Plus freebie for years ago on PS4, and I've kind of started kicking around a save with that. I bought a physical copy of 2 so that I could have that on my shelf. I also bought 7 and Village. I've got the Resident Evil 4 remake that I need to play. That's gonna be the next one that I do when I get to that. Maybe that could be my before Final Fantasy game. Anyway. And that's a genre that I did not expect to like at all, and that I ended up really liking a lot. And I'm excited that last year I've got like two whole categories of games. Like, I was usually, and y'all made fun of me for this all the time, a really predictable game buyer. It's like, I'm buying Metroid, I'm buying Final Fantasy, and I'm buying things I could pay less than half of MSRP for on the secondhand market. But this year really broadened me up a lot and got me a bunch of stuff I didn't think I'd like. I attempted to do a Mega Man X series playthrough, doing one game.
You did great. You did as good as anybody should expect of you.
Yeah, I really liked doing 1 through 6, even though I was like, wow, 6 is legitimately fucking horrible. I did not know how bad that game was as a child, and that the rare moment of returning to a game you struggled with as a kid and going, oh, this is just bad. This is not, I was a child and stupid. This game fucking sucks. Ugh. It's obtuse. It's inscrutable. And then I started 7 and my run just ground to a halt and exploded, and I've never gone back. Man, that game is just not good at all. I will beat it, but I will not like it.
You don't have to complete everything. You can just live with the ones you like.
Do what Nate does, is put out a YouTube video. That's good enough.
Yeah, you played it. Whatever.
I'll think about it.
Watch some other schmuck suffer.
Yeah.
Schadenfreude, baby.
Oh god, what else did I do in the rotation? I beat Mario and Rabbids finally. I was like 2 fights from the end of that game, and I didn't know that I was that close, but I had hit a brick wall and put it down.
That's where I stopped. Was 2 fights from the end of the game. I think. I mean, I could have been further away, but I stopped in the Baby Bowser fight, and I was like, okay, this is fine. I'm done. Bowser Jr., I mean. I have had my fill.
I was on Wario and Waluigi, and that one was tough, but they have a mode, and I wonder if this was added after, because I don't remember this existing when I was playing, that will give you like easy mode. Basically, it'll like restore your health fully before the battle and be like, hey, you know, so that was so I finished that and was like, oh, thank God, that's done. Now I've got the sequel locked and loaded and ready to go sometime, because that game fucks. It's great. Did a bunch of Axiom Verge, didn't finish that. Did a lot of Spiral 1 on the remaster, didn't finish that. I will finish it. It's great. These are games I've never played, the Spyro games. Dabbled on friends' PlayStations. But the big one, of course, I mean, is Tears of the Kingdom, and my part-time job playing like 270 hours of Zelda in a 3-month period.
So many hours, man. I thought going into that I would be able to go shot for shot with you. I was so fucking wrong. I quickly said, nope, not for me. Just gonna play.
That's okay, baby. I'm built different. I'm fucking sick in the head.
Link you under the fucking table.
Yeah. That's good.
Buddy. Oh, that's great. Yeah, so I think 10 weeks with Zelda and about 250, 260 hours.
That is absurd.
Yeah, that game is a staggering achievement, and for all the reasons that we've said, and I loved going through every nook and cranny of that game, and, you know, I stamped my Koroks. I did not raw dog it like I did Breath of the Wild, because, good God, I will never put myself through that again voluntarily. But having the stamps to guide my hoverbike path led me to all kinds of nooks and crannies and fun side quests. Like, for whatever reason, the one that sticks out to me, like over the Gerudo Valley and in towards the desert, going from seed spot to seed spot, and there's a dude on top of the mountain who challenges you to an endurance test, which is literally like, do you have enough hearts to sit without armor in the freezing cold night or the burning hot day and not die? And you literally sit there and watch your hearts tick down in real time, and watch his hearts tick down and watch him start to get wobbly and finally watch him pass out. And he's like, great, here's 100 rupees. I'm like, this is so stupid. I love it. What a dumb thing to just find and be like, this quest is so goofy. But it's full of stuff like that in a way that Breath of the Wild just was not. It's not playable.
You say it's not, but I distinctly remember my standout moment for that in Breath of the Wild was Gut Check Rock and climbing up the pillar to get to the Goron at the very top. And there's just more of that in this one. So I'm glad that they took the things that stood out and were memorable in Breath of the Wild and expanded upon it in ways that were cohesive to the story of Tears of the Kingdom being a kingdom that is restoring. It is people getting back out there. A lot of the side quests are based on people connecting with each other or reconnecting or expanding their horizons. Like, think back to God, what's the little village that you built in Breath of the Wild, but the daughter of the main like builder guy and his wife has to get sent to the Gerudo Valley because that's like the part of their culture. Like, really cool stuff. It's just full of stuff like that. Or Lurelin Village, like the pirates and rebuilding the town.
Loved
this is
it.
Great vibes.
Loved it. Yeah, Lurelin, one of my favorite fucking side quests, because I loved Lurelin in Breath of the Wild. It had such a unique little culture in a way that I didn't find a lot of the other ones did. Maybe it's just because I'm used to a lot of the Zelda races, and I'm like, great, Zora's Water, great, Goron Rock and Fire Mountain. But here's like this little random ass fishing village, and it's very like agrarian, and you know, I don't know.
It's Wind Waker, but in Breath of the Wild.
Oh, now I can't like it. I'm just kidding.
No, wow.
I adored Lurelin Village. It was my fucking favorite part, and I loved being able to like protect them and rebuild them, and then literally rebuild the town back up. And yeah, Terrytown. Oh my God, the daughter going like, lie on the ground, try not to cry a lot. That quest was amazing. Oh, the end of the Lurling quest. Oh, you're reminding me of all the stuff that they're like, we literally have nothing that we can give you but the love in our hearts and what we make by our own hands and bodies. And like, you could stay at the inn for free. We'll cook a meal for you. Like you could like all those tiny little gestures, like take the fish that we get anytime you like come and get the fish at the chest. And I'm like fucking crying. I'm like, this is beautiful. This is beautiful.
And I think one of the chests that you pull up from the bay right there, I think that is the lobster shirt.
Yes, it is.
That you get. So it's a big thank you sign in the very bottom right corner of the map. Thank you for caring about this franchise. He frees for you too.
Yep.
Oh no.
He looks like he's crooning.
Uh-oh.
Oh, baby, I love the way.
Uh-oh. I've lost
everything-
internet.
What if his internet went out? That would
Oh,
be a
no.
huge boner.
Oh yeah, for real though.
Oh, you screen
No,
capped it?
he'll jump on a hotspot with his phone.
The ice storm's so bad, even EJ froze.
Oh, stop.
Had to be said. Had to be
Oh, he's
said.
gone.
This video's gone.
Yeah, he'll come back.
Yeah, he'll return. Oh, now he's gone.
I am on hotspot. My Wi-Fi is officially gone.
Okay, I won't call you then because I was literally going to start calling you to get you back on the air.
So what was your question?
Is Tears of the Kingdom?
Yeah, you said, is Tears of the Kingdom, and then you froze.
And then,
Oh, we apparently had a power surge is what happened. It shut everything off in the front room, but nothing in my office surged except for the Wi-Fi. My PC's still on. Nothing here got affected. That's crazy. Sarah just texted me. Anyway, is Tears of the Kingdom, in a year that you got Metroid and Super Mario RPG Remake, is Tears of the Kingdom your favorite game of 2023?
No. I loved it.
Can you
It's-
choose?
I mean, probably. I mean,
it's
I
probably
don't know.
just Metroid.
Well, I'm trying to think of like what else. What did I do when I got back? Because that was almost all Final Fantasy 16.
Yeah, I was going to ask if there was any other Final Fantasy besides 16, if you did Crisis Core last year or not.
No, I had intended to do. You know, maybe that's what I'll do.
Or Pixel remasters.
I've got it. Haven't even opened the cellophane. I don't think. I will probably do Crisis Core after Prince of Persia. That will be a perfect sized game to do and get me into the Final Fantasy VII spirit. 16 I think was like over 100 hours of playtime, and that was most of the rest of the year. Other than Pokemon Scarlet, which was the fucking surprise of all surprises. EJ comes into chat and says, "Guys, I'm eating crow. Well done. It's good. It's fun." And we'll goob it next week maybe. But when you of all fucking people said this game is worth playing, I was like, fuck it, give me a copy. Like that is there is no higher endorsement. That's like Nick saying amazing, where it's like, fuck me, I gotta buy that game. Like that's incredible.
Yeah.
For me, my favorite game this year was my favorite games. And that's a little bit of a cop-out here, but I can play two.
Huge cop-out.
Well, it says you. I can pick between my children.
At least I had the balls to say that I can't pick instead of picking. I pick not picking.
It's okay. It's those two games for sure. It's Metroid Prime and Super Mario for sure. These are games I have played. In the case of Metroid Prime, I think I played 6 or 7 times, which other than Mega Man X is the most I've ever completed a single video game. Super Mario RPG, I have beaten at least 3 times, which would put it in probably number 4 behind only Mega Man X, Metroid Prime, and KOTOR. All 4 of which of those games I could play on the Switch, which is why I'm like, this is a miracle machine and I will always continue to use it. If the Switch 2, for some stupid reason, is not backwards compatible, because everything is here. Everything I love pretty much is on this console. And that's a beautiful thing. I did have one notable boner of a game. I don't know if you want to do this now, but I finally, Leaf, Drew, have what you are owed, and that is a full Goobrick review of Bee Simulator for the Nintendo Switch.
The listeners are buzzing. They want to hear more.
Listen to the honey tone of my voice as we get into...
I'm dancing in my chair. I just want to hear more.
You just like, I truly wish that I had been power surged and was no longer alive to hear all of these B tier puns.
God damn it.
Really pulled that zinger right out of your ass, huh?
Let's hear it. I want to talk about 2023, but I will suffer through this for you, Chris.
Yeah, I am. Look, Leaf and Drew bought this game for me, which I didn't think they would do because I said I would review it on the podcast if they bought it for me, but I was not paying money for it. And they fucking called my bluff and they bought Bee Simulator and they shipped it to me. And I did play it. This is probably the most aptly titled game ever. It's almost like they named the game after the obscure subgenre that it is. And this is a bee simulator in which you play the role of a worker bee in a colony in not Central Park, that is experiencing some difficulties like a hard winter, invasive animals looking to eat the honey, and ultimately having to relocate because the tree that the hive is in is being cut down as it is rotting apart. This is, well, okay, let me go through the Gubrick. I have things in all four categories.
Oh, Christ, here we go.
I will make it quick. So
we got the Kubrick, dude.
I'm gonna get a proper review. They paid money for this. I owe them. So you fly around Central Park. You gather pollen. That's one of the main mechanics by flying through flowers. And then when your legs, which you can see getting like heavier and heavier with more pollen, are full, you fly back. You drop it off. You get knowledge points, which is what you use to unlock things like cosmetics and other generally not very useful things. There's a number of mini games such as fights with invasive wasps and hornets, dance things where you're communicating messages with other bees in the hive, and chases, which are exactly what they sound like. All right, so the good. First and foremost, there is a designated sting button in this game. Logic be damned. My bee would have been dead hundreds of thousands of times over if it actually stung as many things as I did, which means that you could sting things like bitch-ass seagulls trying to eat you, bitch-ass children, and you could pop their bitch-ass balloons right in front of their faces and hear them yell. It's beautiful. My favorite part about this game was just flying around stinging children in the face and popping their balloons.
Jesus fucking Christ.
The overworld music is actually amazing. It is relaxing and pleasing to the ear. It won 2 awards according to IMDb at some what sound like very small time international like independent game awards. And both of them were for the score, for the music that was composed for this game. It's good. It's good. It's relaxing. While I'm fighting with the rest of everything that's shitty about this game, that kept me level. There are so many fucking puns in this game. Right out of the rip, I named my bee Beyonce because obviously, and a lot of the different in-game achievement titles were titled things like to be or not to be, rebellious, excuse me. Your boost is called Beatro instead of Nitro, which, you know, that's a reach. But so many bee puns, which made me chuckle. The bees and wasps are actually rendered beautifully and with great scientifically accurate detail. So anytime you are looking at your own bee, or an invasive hornet or one of the bees in the nest, they look exactly like bees. And there are a whole bunch of scientifically accurate bee species skins that you can unlock for in-game currency and use. That was super cool that they were going to give you a whole bunch of cool bee facts in loading screens and in the course of the plot of the game and with all these different skins, and they delivered that. The cutscenes are animated in this like storybook like art style that's actually really lovely. That's the end of the good list. So notice I have not talked about gameplay literally at all. So let's move on.
Stinging is gameplay.
Stinging is gameplay. Stinging children for fun is gameplay. You could get your bee like little costumes and trail effects that will follow you while you're flying. So like my bee has like a little wizard hat and has fireworks coming out of its ass every time that I'm flying around. Which is like
scientifically accurate.
Scientifically accurate. It's not good because it's non-functional, but it just amuses me to picture these like teeny tiny little like bee cosmetics that they're like wearing while they're flying around. And some of the mini games, specifically the combat mini game, which is just a bunch of like XY button combinations in specific windows, and the communication mini game where you're repeating D-pad inputs to mirror the message that another bee is giving you. those did get a little bit more challenging as the game went on, but generally speaking, were almost entirely brain dead rote. But it's not awful. Like, I don't know. It didn't fall too obnoxious to me. It's okay. I didn't mind doing those. I was like, okay, I could do this and then I can move on. Obnoxious. The voice actor. This game is fully voice acted first. This game is fully voice
Jerry
acted.
Seinfeld?
Almost all of the voice actors are Eastern European and they are all legitimately horrible at what they do. Fucking god awfully bad. Look up B Simulator all cutscenes. Maybe you could pull a particularly bad one to use for the cold open this week, EJ. They're terrible, but they're so bad it's funny, so it stays out of the bad column, but it is not good. And they all attempt a bunch. There's like 6 or 7 of them, and they do a bunch of different voices, and they're all just so terribly bad. Gathering pollen, it will ask you a lot of the time to get specific colors, specific types of pollen from specific colors of flowers, but you cannot see that on the overworld. You have to activate bee vision by clicking the right stick, which is fine. And it's cool that it's like, oh, this is what a bee looks like with all the different like lenses in the bee's eye, but it's vomit inducing. And it also means that when I'm like flying around picking up pollen, I don't have a fucking clue what I'm picking up. I might not even be picking up the correct pollen. And your pollen meter fills up so fucking fast that you're making all these trips back and forth to the hive. I'm like, I understand it's scientifically accurate. You fill up, you go back, but you couldn't just increase the amount of fucking pollen I could carry. You couldn't let me see what it looks like on the overworld. They're all just like orange circles over every flower that you can gather pollen from is just an orange circle. So it's just a sea of orange circles all over the place. Fucking annoying.
Sounds like you need a skill tree.
They could learn a thing or two from
Skull Kong, Rise of Island.
Iguana Bee developed that game. Guys, it all ties together.
Better believe it. Ascending and descending in order to land and take off is tied to ZL and ZR, and it is ponderous and often doesn't work. So if I'm trying to land to, I don't know, sting a specific character, which yes, occasionally was actually asked for in the story and not just me being vengeful about all the ankle biters in Central Park, it just would not let me land, or I would just crash into the surface and like careen off a different direction. That's fucking annoying. And recharging your Betro, your boost gauge, requires eating sugary foods, which requires landing on it, which is shitty and bad. And each food item that you land on doesn't fully refill your gauge. It's not even like it does a quarter or a third or half. It does like 85% and just inexplicably doesn't fill the whole thing. So you're constantly landing and eating like gingerbread cookies and like slurping out of somebody's like leftover soda and things like that, which is extremely important because as we move into the bad, the movement in this game, the flying in this game, everything that involves being in motion, which is literally 98% of a bee's existence, is fucking terrible. You move so goddamn slowly in this game, even when you are fully boosting, which does not last nearly long enough to get you from point A to point B. And yes, there is a fast travel system, but guess what? There's no fucking map in this game. So you don't know where any of the things you're fast traveling to exist in relation to any of the other places. So if I'm trying to get to a specific quest that I know I didn't do somewhere, good fucking luck to me, because the HUD only shows you stuff in your immediate vicinity, and I mean immediate fucking vicinity. So you move slowly, the fast travel is not actually that useful, your boost runs out way too fucking quickly, and the flight handles like it was designed by an alcoholic who said, yeah, this is fine. It's awful. So the racing mini game where you are chasing other insects around and having to get through specific, very small circles in order to maintain progress on the race. You miss 3 circles, you fucking fail the race. You have to start over. They're fucking impossible. They're fucking impossible. Like literally, I don't understand how anyone could actually do that challenge, because using the right stick to ascend and descend using like flight controls, because it is a flight sim ostensibly, is horrible, and no amount of changing any of the sensitivity settings did a goddamn thing to make it any better. So all of the stuff that you're doing literally all the time when you're not doing fighting or dancing mini games was awful to experience. This is an ugly game with flat, shitty textures, virtually no draw distance whatsoever. Everything's a blob until you're right on top of it. The split screen mode, there's a multiplayer mode in this game.
Did you get Tiffany in on it?
No, I got someone else. Tiffany was like, I'm not doing that. She has more self-respect than that. But it is absolutely atrocious. Like, it forces you into mini games if one of the other players activates one of those icons. There are no instructions as to how to win in this competitive arena. You literally are just dropped in, and Matt and I spent like 45 minutes just trying to figure out how to win split screen mode. So I'm like, I shouldn't have to Google this. Like, this is stupid. Like, I should just be able to understand what my objective is to defeat you and to be the winner of this split screen mode. Last and probably most hilariously, all of the human character models in this game look and move like going to the store.
What does that mean?
Are you familiar with? You're not familiar?
No.
You would know it if you saw it. Oh, fuck. Here, I'll put it. Give me a second. I'm going to drop
it in the
this.
chat.
I'm going to drop this in the Discord chat.
Deep lore.
I feel like you're going to see it and you're going to go, oh, yeah, that. But then you'll laugh after that when you realize that that's what all of the human character models look like in this game. All right, it's going in the now recording chat. Going to the store. 45-second video. Avail yourselves of it.
Oh!
Yeah.
Grand Theft Auto physics.
That is what all of the character models look and sound like. They are rendered to that degree of non-specificity. They waggle around in awful, nightmarish looking ways. And they don't even really speak gibberish, which I'm now realizing I maybe could have fit that into your whammy round last week and scored a big W.
You also play as an animal, Chris.
Oh, man, Chris.
That's true.
You left some points on the fucking table.
I wonder if Bee Simulator has a Metacritic score.
It does.
Oh, no,
You wanna know what
don't
it
tell me.
is?
I'm looking it up. I'm looking it up.
It has to be in the 30s, right? It has to be in the 30s.
I want to see this with my own two eyes. Is it lower? That'd be so fucking funny. Bee Simulator. I can't believe this has a Metacritic page. 58. That's not that bad. I wish that was worse.
The PS4 version is 47.
Here's a user review. According to all known laws of aviation, there is no way a bad gamer could play this epic bee game.
That is more Bee Simulator than I ever wanted to be privy to. I feel violated, and I'm going to blame this on Leaf and Drew for doing this to all of us.
Well, Drew is excited to get his review finally, and hopefully Leaf will be too. I'd give it a soft 5 out of 10. And the only reason it gets a 5 is because of, the music is lovely. It's hard to rate a game with good music lower than a 5 to me, because that sometimes is the hardest thing for people to get right. It just is generic and schlocky and terrible. And there is so much like scientific accuracy, even in the narrative of this game, which I didn't know prior to playing this game, that worker bees go through different roles in the hive at different stages of their lives. And so through the course of this game, you start out like maintaining the hive and eventually are asked to go out and to gather pollen and to guard the hive and to EJ's looking very concerned.
I'm having power surges.
Uh-oh. That's enough about Bee Simulator then. That's a 5 out of 10. That's a 5 out of 10. My obligation is satisfied. My watch has now ended, and let's hear about some good stuff, EJ. How was your 2023, man?
Chris, I admire not only your commitment to the bit, but your commitment to your friends. That is honorable.
Thanks, brother.
And I'm proud of you. Oh, man. Yeah, again, I'm on my laptop, which is fully charged, on my hotspot on my phone, which is almost fully charged. So if I lose power, you won't see me, but I'll still be recording. You'll kind of see me. It'll just look a lot scarier.
Be recording.
2023 was a weird year for me, only because I was coming off of really what I would say the end of COVID, the habits I formed during COVID, just as far as my free time and what work looked like and when I could play, Warzone as we knew it sort of ceased to be. I just had this void where I'm like, I'm not playing multiplayer games anymore. The group doesn't have a game to play together. It was a change for me, and it was uncomfortable. Of course, 2023 is the year that I went full sicko mode on platinuming games. I platinumed 20 games, I think. I don't even remember how many. I played a wide variety of games. So to kick off the year, played through Spyro 2 and 3, and then played Astro's Playroom, and then I went back to God of War to finish that. So already it's like quite the spread Then Brendan and I were trying to find like a lot of multiplayer games. Like we played A Way Out, which fucking sucked. Probably the worst game of the year for me. It Takes Two, which was good, but obnoxiously long. We played some weird co-op, like I don't know, like Operation Tango. It's like it's a puzzle stealth game. Really interesting. We played some really shitty puzzle games, the We Were Here series. I know I've talked about all these on the podcast so far, but it was just a really weird run from like January to March where we were just playing anything we get our hands on. We tried Knights and Bikes. You know, I tried to play Inscription, which didn't go over well. We tried to play Borderlands 3, which that game sucks ass too, especially compared to the first two. But just a weird year. But this, of course, brings us to Risk of Rain, which, spoiler alert, might be my favorite game that I played in 2023. It will, without a doubt, be going on the Console Crusade Top 100, episode 150. Look out for that in a couple weeks. God, that game is so good. And I feel about that game the way Nick feels about the first game. And I wish I could like relive this by playing the first game. But that game is so different. Even though like the general conceit is the same and so many of the characters and the powers are the same, it is just such a different game and it's not for me. And I wish it were, Nick. I wish. The other game that I think Risk of Rain might compete with for being my favorite of the year, and again, a game that did not come out last year, but one of the South Park games, and probably the second one, but maybe the first one, they're both just so good. I had so much fun platinum those games. There are no games quite like them, and I've said that recently, but I played the second one first, and then went back to the first one, which was sort of a enlightening way to go about it, and just seeing, it was funny how like The Fractured But Whole sort of was the version of The Stick of Truth that existed in my mind as far, you know, graphically and some of the general conceits that the game had. And then going back to Stick of Truth, I was like, oh, wow, this is different, but still perfectly entertaining. There's nothing like those games out there. And it's not just the humor. It's not just the world. Yeah, maybe Paper Mario. Is that where the list ends? Is that it?
Yeah, kind of. Adventure RPGs. Yeah. Small party. Limited interaction with the build beyond like what you're leveling into.
It's kind of a bummer that the list starts and ends there. And how funny that it's Paper Mario and South Park. Like, talk about two ends of the spectrum. Obviously, we played all the heavy hitters. We played Tears of the Kingdom. We've talked plenty about that. We played Spider-Man. We did an entire review on that. Insert clip. Which episode is that? Chris forgot to even mention that in his...
the whole franchise. I totally forgot. Oh, shame on my house for not mentioning one of the Olsen bangers. My B.
Yeah, and something Brendan and I were talking about yet again the other day is, and I said to him, I said, Chris is going to argue that Spider-Man 2 should be in the top 100 over Spider-Man 1, and I won't entertain that for a moment. Maybe Spider-Man 2 makes its way onto the list, and that's for you to bring to the table. But over Spider-Man 1, I won't entertain it.
We've had this exact debate. This would be the third time with God of War, with The Last of Us. I don't think I care to relitigate it a third time. We keep Spidey 1 on there if you want, or maybe Miles Morales even, but that's cool. I don't need to, we don't need to have the debate for a third time.
I did not like Spider-Man 2 better than either of the other games. I appreciate it for what it was. I had a good time platinuming that game. I wish I had a lot more of it to play. But yeah, there's no way. I mean, not for a moment that I enjoy it more than either of the other two. But a good game. And then obviously, like we said, all the games that we properly reviewed on the podcast this year, Metroid and Mario Wonder and Spider-Man and Mario RPG, which despite my middling review score, Chris, I give it a 77.
Middling.
Is a good game. Is a competent remake. Loving from all indications as someone who didn't play the original. The music was great. I enjoyed my time with it. I like talking about it with you guys. I wish those kind of games were more for me. I probably would have liked it more. But I do not regret my time with it the way that I regret my time with, say, Metroid. I don't regret it in the sense that it obviously gave us a lot to talk about. And it was nice to like finally understand sort of where you guys are coming from. And obviously our tastes are wildly different in games. Chris, you and I have more overlap than Nick and I. And you guys obviously have a lot of overlap. But I did not have fun playing that game probably at any point. I wouldn't put it on the boner list, but I figured I should just mention that it's boner adjacent for me.
You're a saint, EJ. Thank you for stooping to our level.
I played a lot of Switch this year. Started off with Fire Emblem Engage, a game that I think is criminally underrated. I unfortunately did not beat it because other games came along. Again, we platinumed 20 games this year. More than half of those happened within the first 2 months of the year. And, we got lost in the mix. I played Kirby in the Forgotten Land. I jumped on the Pokemon bandwagon. I tried to play Luigi's Mansion 3. Obviously, Zelda. I put almost 400 hours onto my Switch this year. 100 and something of that is Zelda, obviously. The big thing, really, though, was Warzone officially dying. Us jumping over Warzone 2. I jumped in 8+ months late and hated that game. Warzone 3 has come out, guys, and let me tell you, I'm not quite as Warzone pilled as I was when Warzone 1 was a thing. It's just not as good of a game. There's some interesting changes. There's some positives. But we do be playing every day now, and I don't walk away every night saying, fucking hate this game.
High praise.
Dude, they did a limited game mode to end the year called Sleigh Ride, and Santa is like a juggernaut demon guy who is like running the train on the main BR map, and he's got like fucking zombie elves that pop up and try to fuck you up. Sounds totally goofy, but the whole premise or the whole conceit of this game mode, you land in, you have a limited time melee item, which is a snowball. Those like stun you and do crazy area of effect damage. And so people are landing in hot, tossing snowballs at each other. There are Christmas trees where you capture the waypoint, and it gives you just a ton of gear. But the whole conceit of this is that Santa comes in on the train that goes around all the way around Urzikstan, the new map. And when the train comes in about halfway through the match, the circle and the gas follows the train. So you now have a moving waypoint as the circle moves, and everyone's trying to chase the train. So we completely reverse engineered this fucking meta, trying all these different strategies to figure out, like, do you want to be in front of the train and try to take it? Do you want to follow the train but not get on the train so you don't get airstriked? Do you want to capture the front of the train and just hold that bitch the whole game and let people come to you and just funnel kills? So we ended up figuring out this meta, and we won so many games. It got to a point that I haven't really had fun playing Warzone since Sleigh Ride went away. It was so goddamn fun. Like, taking everything I love about BR, which is the strategy and the cooperation, the variables that are introduced at the beginning of every match with, what guns are you going to be able to get and whatever. I like figuring all that strategy out on the fly. And now you have a moving waypoint. It's just like the best of both worlds for me. And we would play for so many hours, dude, that I would get up and my peripheral vision is fucking moving because I was on that train for so many hours, seeing all that moving by me. And
Tetris vision from Warzone.
Dude, it would completely mess me up, dude. And Brennan, I remember one morning, he's like, you guys ever get a little fucked up after being on the train for a couple hours? I was like, dude, straight up messes you up, man. You don't feel right when you stand up. Anyway, it was a weird year. I liked that I was able to let go of Warzone the first time, and it led me back to some multiplayer games, including Risk of Rain. I like getting platinum pilled. I'm still on that train, like constantly looking for games that Brennan and I can play together. We started Nobody Saves the World, which we had originally played on Xbox. We started that on PlayStation a month ago. I like that Warzone is back. Raven/Sledgehammer. Listen to the people after a really bad year. It's coming back. We're about an hour into this podcast. We're going to now look forward to 2024, talk about what we're looking forward to. I tell you what I'm looking forward to is Rebirth Island is coming to Warzone 3. My motherfucking map.
You're going to be back.
Despite this being a very different game and the skill gap not being quite as large as it was, and a skill gap that really requires you to be able to shoot straight, which I'm not very good at. Again, my strengths lie both in my movement, my decision-making, my game sense.
Your call-outs.
My communication.
Top tier call-outs.
Shooting straight is not my strength. That is the weakest thing about my game, and that is something that Warzone 3 wants you to be good at. So I'm not nearly as good at this game as I had gotten at Warzone 1, which is probably a good thing because I play it less than I did. But again, that was the pandemic and coming out of the pandemic. It was just kind of a weird time, But Rebirth Island's coming back. I can't fucking wait. I've been playing. We got our boy Sam in on Warzone. He's been into Modern Warfare 3 pretty hard. And so we were trying to get him in on the BR train. He's very self-deprecating, Nick, about his ability. And I'm like, dude, you've played with us for like 12 rounds and you're already better than half the people that we play with every day. So like, just keep doing your thing, man.
He was just so lost in Black Ops back when that was modern and relevant. That was when he was living in Arizona with his dad. And literally the only thing he did when he was not working was playing Black Ops. So he knows what it's like to be competing at the top of his game, and his own ADHD addled brain just going full focus mode on just that, making sloppy PB&Js in the bathroom between matches, like fully lost. So he's probably doing that just to moderate himself, because he will get lost in the sauce if he allows himself to.
Yeah, a little BR is a nice change of pace when you're just seeking and destroying freaking 6 hours a day after work, you know? So anyway, that's what I'm looking forward to. There's plenty more. We'll get there. Nick, 2024. We've said it how many times? There's no way this year is going to be anything close to what 2023 was in terms of both quantity and quality of games. But there's still some stuff to look forward to. What are you looking forward to? What's at the top of your list? What are you waiting for? What's a day one buy for you?
Elden Ring DLC.
Oh, yeah, of course.
Paper Mario 1,000 Year Door.
Yeah,
New Switch console and whatever day one drops are on there.
Come on, of course.
Yeah, I mean, those are the biggies. Prince of Persia on Thursday.
Yeah.
Prince of Persia, which you're reluctantly buying day one just for the content.
Certainly. Like, I would 100% get this game. It's just that if I waited 6 months, it would be $30.
Right.
So it's like, it hurts my frugal senses, but I'm not going to regret paying full price for this game.
Big same, buddy.
I want to reward Ubisoft for the rare W that they have, you know? When was the last time they've had a game that is like anticipated and that people actually like? It's been years, right?
It's been a
long
while.
fucking time.
Besides that, I mean, I don't know if I'm going to get Metaphor right away. I would have to see more about like what the gameplay conceits are kind of like to differentiate it from Persona, because I am very, very easily falling off of the Persona formula. So yeah, I don't know what else. Those are some good games. Silk Song, when that comes out this year, definitely, for sure. Literally, until I see the number 2024 emblazed, blasting, beaming into my eye holes, I'm not excited for that game. I'll be excited for that game the day before it comes out.
Your heart can't afford to be excited for it. As far as Paper Mario 1,000 Year Door, a game that I never beat, a game that is on our top 100, you guys both love very much.
In my top 10 of all games.
I love that. We're going to revisit our personal top 10s very soon. Very, very soon. What do you want out of a remake? A game that, other than needing maybe a resolution bump, what does that game need? And what do you anticipate actually
Nothing.
happening? It needs nothing. It's a perfect game.
It doesn't need anything. In my estimation, I can't think of anything that would improve that game. Any changes would only risk stepping it down.
So $60
Make it
just for
widescreen? I don't know. I'd pay 70. Fuck it. Who cares?
rewarding Nintendo for...
Give me what I want, and I want Paper Mario 1,000 Year Door. Yes. A game that they've tried to like make people forget that they made because they went a totally different direction with the Paper Mario franchise afterwards. Yeah, I want to reward them for doing the right thing and hopefully encourage them to continue to do so.
Right. I was going to say, vote with the wallet. This is an opportunity to go. We've been asking for this for a long time. Here is my money, as promised. Please make another one of these that isn't a schlocky, gimmicky action kind of not really RPG that you can't create original characters for anymore, and all it has to be like copy pasta, state sanctioned Mario bullshit. Like, give me Paper Mario 3. An honest to God Paper Mario 3. The only way that happens is if we all buy this fucking game.
Yeah, and each successive game after Color Splash, I guess, or after Sticker Star, because that was truly horrendous. Color Splash was better. Origami King was better. But Origami King, which I liked, is like a 75 on a good day, and Paper Mario is like 95 on its worst day. So like 1,000 Year Door, make more of that. Don't give me the bad version of that. Give me the good version of it, please.
Obviously, Nintendo concocted the Mario and Luigi games, and so they kind of felt the need to make Paper Mario its own distinct thing?
Sure, but then they made too many of those and they got worse and worse and worse, and now the studio's dead, so there's no excuse anymore.
God forbid, what happens if this game comes out and doesn't sell? Is that just the end of Paper Mario?
I mean, if it doesn't sell, it's because the Switch is dead. It's on them. They should know by now that putting out a game on like the waning console as the new one is coming out is a recipe for failure. So I'm hoping that it does well. I don't know what the ceiling is. I don't think it sells as well as Origami King did because that was a new game and it came out 3 or 4 years ago, like during the heyday of the Switch lifespan. So Mario spin-off games sell well. The Paper Mario games sell pretty well. Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, I think, is like a top 10 seller on the original hardware. I'd have to look it up. I don't remember, but it sold really well. So it's a well-known game, a oft-spoke-about title in the franchise. Like if Smash Bros. Melee had a remaster that came out, it would do a lot better than Paper Mario Thousand Year Door does, but it would still probably sell worse than Smash Ultimate, right? So I'm kind of thinking on it in those terms.
Switch 2 launch, Paper Mario Thousand Year Door, and let's see, what can they remaster? Mario Odyssey remaster?
They wouldn't do a remaster. They would do what they did with Wii U games to the Switch. They would do, this is the game again, but with like a tiny little added mode and pay full price.
Right. It'd be Mario Odyssey
Mario Odyssey with funky mode.
Second Voyage.
That seems a lot more
Which would
likely.
be awesome. Honestly, I would buy Odyssey again if it just had like another island. Like screw it, I don't care. That'd be awesome.
As far as Elden Ring DLC, Nick, typically, and I know Elden Ring is an open world game, so this might be a little different. For something like Bloodborne, are you getting just a couple of new boss fights? Are you getting whole new areas to explore? And is Elden Ring, I imagine it's just going to take place in the open world and you're going to have some new enemy types and a new boss or two, right?
Well, I mean, just the structure of the open world in Elden Ring, there is a lot of times that you go somewhere and a cutscene happens, something fucky happens, and you are teleported to a location and you do not really have context as to where you are.
Open world.
Well, I mean, it's very open world. It's like a big crescent with like an area that you kind of teleport to that is, it fits in the map, but there's no way you'd actually be able to get up there because it's a giant tree. There's also the giant tree in the map. The whole thing is ringed around. It's an open world, but with like a few sequestered areas. But I think there's a good possibility that there is a sequestered area that you go to and it is a isolated zone with additional maybe roaming bosses that are already there. So they could add more to that. Like there's the knight. I can't remember the guy's name. There's a like literal knight with a K, but it happens at nighttime. And there's like the Deathbird. The Deathbird is a total fucker. But they could add more of those. They could add different weapons and classes. I mean, adding a weapon to that game is like adding a new fighter to a fighting game. So it could just do that, and that would be a huge addition to it. And they have historically done that in the past with like stuff like the Old Hunters DLC for Bloodborne, where they added all the Old Hunter weapons that didn't really have the same sort of transformations that the original set of weapons did. They're a lot more primitive in their implementation because that's like the whole storyline of the game is that you go kind of back in the past, but it's like the memory of someone that you're inside of. So it's all screwed up and weird, and you're going to a place that looks very familiar, but is very different at the same time. In that game, I think that DLC added 3 or 4 boss fights in the DLC, 2 of which being like some of the best boss fights in Souls history with Maria of the Clock Tower and Orphan of Kos. So DLC fights and DLC in the Souls games are always just like hugely rewarding and are beloved by the fan base. I think of the Dark Souls 1 DLC, which added Artorias of the Abyss and Manus, and was just super weird. It's like this high fantasy take inside of a dark fantasy world, going to Ulasil and just very strange sort of encounters in that world. And then the Dark Souls 3 DLC, which I loved a lot, which never ended up actually finishing and never actually fought Gale. But just exploring the Ring City and exploring the different locations. Like I love exploring in Dark Souls games, so getting another version of that with Elden Ring, where I did like the exploration a lot, but my favorite part was not the open world. Like running around on your little deer horse was cool, but I like the bespoke dungeons that I have known to come and love from Dark Souls and from Bloodborne. Is like the tightly interlocking Metroidvania, but in 3D sort of exploration, and being afraid at every moment that you're going to turn the corner and just get one shot by something you weren't expecting. Like that tension just builds and it makes it so satisfying. So that's what I want from Elden Ring DLC.
Something tells me
And
you're
I know
gonna
I'll get it. I know I'll get it.
You're gonna be spoiled this year. Chris, other than Final Fantasy, which we already know you're going off the grid for, you will do nothing but you and your plums out on the couch with Final Fantasy, your phone on silent. Don't speak to me. Don't do not like unfurling a rug. What was that?
It's my avocados on the couch.
Maybe more like little cherry tomatoes. What are you looking forward to?
Well, I mean, I'm a simple man. And for all that I just talked about how exciting it was last year to come into these two new genres I really love and I'm excited to explore, I'm excited for Final Fantasy and Metroid. The same fucking shit I'm excited for every year. I bought a PS5 last year to play Final Fantasy 16. Thoroughly satisfied with that purchase and with that game. But yeah, man, and in that order, it's Rebirth first and whatever Metroid has in store second. And not just because one of those games exists and
Is real.
but because I'm legitimately more excited for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth than for Metroid Prime 4, even though I do think it's coming this year. Yeah, that's going to be my whole month of March. Yes, I will 100% be playing this game with my phone in the bedroom, put away. I will not have it with me while I'm doing play sessions, partially because this is going to be a big ass game and I want to get through it in a timely manner so that I don't get spoiled and so that I can talk about it more quickly on here and hopefully in a timely manner. But we'll see, because there's a lot of content and I've accepted I'm going to do it all. I am not capable of zerging the story when there is like beautiful side content that's going to make the world feel richer like it did in Remake. So that's number one. And then number two is I kind of feel like I could be playing two Troids this year. I think it would not surprise me at all in a February Direct or a late January Direct, even if they're like, here's Metroid Prime 2. Available digitally today. I don't know if they're going to do a physical run of that game, which would make me very sad. But I can hope. And then it will, then we'll get a one more thing with, here's your Prime 4 trailer. It would not surprise me at all. And will be perfectly in keeping with the way things have rolled out historically. But I think I'm going to be playing Metroid this year. I think I'm going to play Metroid Prime this year. And I'm excited for that, whether that's like giving Prime 2 the sort of like revenge tour it deserves to be as esteemed as it ought to be, as an extremely worthy sequel to Prime 1 in basically every way. And also just to have that on my shelf as well. Another game that I would just love to play once a year, once every couple of years, that I can slap into the Switch, play on the bus, play at home, put headphones in, enjoy myself. That's it for me. Honestly, that's it.
It feels like for a company like Nintendo, there's no reason not to give Metroid Prime 2 and 3 the same treatment as Metroid Prime got. I feel like they probably won't. I could see kind of a straight port, sort of a, Zelda type situation for 2 and 3, but it just feels like you're being wronged after what they did to Metroid Prime, which was how a remaster should look.
Yeah, I agree. And I think that you're probably right. I think that Prime is sort of the like shining bastion of that whole, speaking of games that are not like any other game, like what genre is Metroid Prime? You can't answer that question. Like it is its own genre, and Prime 2 does it 5% less amazingly, arguably, or maybe just it is doing it for the second time, which, like you said, you can't go home again. And it's just not held to the same regard. Part of that, I think, was it came out almost concurrently with Halo 2, which meant it got unfairly, because they're really not comparable games at all. But that was, I can see the magazine cover in my head of Electronic Gaming Monthly of the first-person shooter wars, with Metroid Prime 2, Halo 2, and Killzone 2 all sharing a cover. Killzone 2, obviously, nobody fucking remembers that game. But comparing a game like Prime 2 that is atmospheric and moody and more about vibing and discovering and exploration and not really about shooting at all, it just happens to be what you do to attack enemies, to fucking Halo 2, which is like one of the most seminal games ever, is unfair. And that is, I think, what sort of wrote the book on Prime 2. And people were like, oh, ammo. What is ammo in a Metroid game? And I think that got a lot of people's
You know what's funny about that Metroid versus Halo comparison is like it really separated the boys from the men. The people like you who like Metroidvania games and the people like me who like shooting things in space. And people are like, oh, wait, here's a game where I can actually shoot things in space. And obviously, Halo was a thing, but just Halo 2, again, like you said, a seminal game, both for the genre, but also for the time. And it's just sort of like, all right, we've done Metroid, we've done Halo, and now we're doing it again. And one of these is what throngs of people wanted. And everyone else just sort of stayed over here. And unfortunately, that was sort of the beginning of the end for like what Metroid was trying to do. And here we are, how many years later? And maybe we're seeing it return. It's just interesting. It's just an interesting anecdote. You can see that cover, and it's like, I can only imagine what that discourse would look like now with the internet and people like you being like, they're not even in the same on the same planet. You know what I mean? And people just being like, shooty shoot space game. And you're like, you fucking ingrates.
Star Wars and Star Trek, it's like the same thing, right?
Wow. Yeah. Actually, yeah. Oh, that's funny. Oh, yeah. So that's me. I would love for Prime 2 to get sort of a reclamation lap, and can't wait for all the think piece articles about, wow, we really undervalued this game when it came out. It is an excellent game, does a lot of what Prime does, as well as Prime does some stuff better. It looks a little bit better. God knows it fixed Samus's like sea mine sized shoulder armor into something that was like actually more true to what the design had always looked like. It's a great game. It's a great game.
More true to the human anatomy.
Yeah, also
a person might fit in there.
I love the Space Marine stuff in Metroid Prime 2. It's so undersung. Like no one ever like brings it up when they're talking about that game. It's always the light and dark ammo and taking too long in the dark world because you have to stand and heal at the lamps. And granted, those things are annoying. And hopefully, if they do remaster this game, they can massage that a little bit. But yeah, I think it is. It's easy to say, well, I don't know. Do people say that it's the worst of the trilogy, or do people say that Corruption's the worst of the trilogy?
Corruption for sure. Although these are all over 90 on Metacritic, just to be clear. Like these are all excellent fucking games that are some of the best on their respective consoles.
Well, it doesn't matter. You have to say that one of them is bad because the other one is good. That's how comparisons work, Chris.
No,
I reject this.
Oh my god, yeah, the Galactic Federation trooper logs, gut wrenching. Of like their final accounts before they get fucking overrun by these shadow creatures ripping them to pieces. You land and you see like the last video they took of them all just getting overrun and torn apart, and you're like, what the fuck, man? What the fuck? So that's what I'm looking forward to. What I always look forward to. And the surprises that will come along the way. The game in September, where it's, another month and a half until Prime 4 comes out, and I'm like, what am I going to play? And grab something on sale or pick up a fizzy of something that Nick's like, you'd really like this. And I'm like, damn, that's my Hades this year. What's my Hades in 2024?
So a game that came out in 2022.
Well, that's exactly it. You can get it on sale now. I recently just listened to someone talk about someone that I watch who plays Call of Duty at a very high level, what we like to call a Call of Duty professional. He just took some time off and said, I absolutely blasted through Final Fantasy VII remake again in anticipation of the sequel. And hearing him gush about the game, of course, got me thinking about the podcast and Chris, and thinking, should I make this my January game? And then I could play the sequel with you? Nick's laughing at me because he knows this is a dark path.
It's a dark bit, but I'm laughing more at Chris just going like he wants it so bad, but he's trying to temper it. He's trying to pad that down.
The line I'm walking is between unhinged enthusiasm at the thought of someone else on this fucking podcast playing this game so that I could talk about it. And the dark truth that you're not getting through that game.
Damn.
And not for
damn.
not for any lack of like enthusiasm on your part. I just think you're going to play it and you're going to go, yep, this is an action JRPG. And you're going to put like 15 hours into it and you're just going to stop. You did get through, and that's no knock against you that you would be incapable of finishing it. You're certainly capable of finishing it. I just don't know if it's your steez. So I don't want to like swallow the hook, line, and sinker here to repurpose a metaphor for its original intended purpose and just be like, great, yes, do that. I would love if you did that.
Is Rebirth a part of the PlayStation, one of the tiers? I pay for all of them. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm going to download it tonight. I'm going to fucking download it. Fuck it. We ball. I'm not going on vacation next week. I'm going to try. I'm going to see. If it's not for me, it's not for me. And as we said before we started recording, Chris, that's the old me. I'm not, I will, generally speaking, I will play some schlock or I will play something that isn't for me for the sake of the conversation. I did that with Metroid, but I'm not going to do 80 hours for the sake of conversation. It's got to get me. It's got to hook me.
It wouldn't be 80 hours anyway, I think. Yeah, I mean, in the early part of the game, if I could give you any piece of advice you get started, it's pay attention when they're telling you, hey, use your triangle button to switch between these two attack styles situationally. And also, you cannot play as only one character. You have to understand how Tifa, Aerith, Barret, and Cloud all, how they work. If for no other reason than it's way fucking harder to do this only focusing on Cloud because the other party members, you could set them to different like auto pathing and they will do stuff without you doing manual inputs. But understanding like how Tifa's whole system works of just building massive amounts of like damage multipliers and unleashing them all at once, and how Barret can be used to like dislodge enemies if they're trying to like use walls in the arena to get out of like melee combat range. Yeah, just get to know them as they are added to your party.
This Rebirth will not complete the retelling. There will be a third installment.
That is correct. This will end at the City of the Ancients, which, if you are familiar with the original Final Fantasy VII, is extremely fucking significant.
Okay, I see. I see.
Chris, do you think there will be a weapon fight in Rebirth?
I do. I don't know why they would say the word weapon in like the most high profile trailer for these games if they're not going to give us one of the weapon fights. I would assume they'd probably give us. Oh, no. I don't think we'll get one of the end game ones, but Diamond Weapon is an in-game boss. That's not an end game boss. As is, well, I guess Omega Weapon is optional. That'd probably be in the third installment. Maybe I could see Emerald before I could see Ruby. I cannot answer why, but like I literally don't know why. It just feels right.
Is this a game that I need to have an appreciation and a background for and with the original game? Or is this something that I can go in as a newbie who's never played a Final Fantasy game to completion more than, I played Final Fantasy VII for like 3 hours. Can this just be a new game in the current year that I can play and appreciate?
Yeah.
Impossible to answer.
No, it's not impossible to answer. I'd say to a certain extent, yes. I think you'll have a better experience if you spend an hour and watch a YouTube video that recaps Final Fantasy VII. I think you'd have a better experience because when they start to, what the fuck,
subvert the expectations.
When Nomura starts to Nomura all over himself, you will be able to understand like, oh wait, what the fuck? Like, what? This is not. What's going on? That's what was a big part for me of Remake is something's off. Something's coming.
Something's fucky.
So it's gonna end up being like some weird, like alternate dimension version of Final Fantasy VII's events, and someone's gonna like, it's gonna end up being a multiverse thing or like a
unclear yet.
Sure seems like it, maybe.
Okay.
Yeah,
I see.
There's no. We'll know a lot more when Rebirth comes out, because I mean, it'll be apparent if you like watch a recap video and then play Remake. You'll go, whoa, wait, okay, hang on, pump the brakes.
Okay. Interesting. Well, I have never played really a Final Fantasy game. I've certainly not played a modern Final Fantasy game, unless you count the MMO that I played for a week and hated. So I don't know. It could be an interesting thing to dip my toes into, if only for the sake of conversation. Maybe I'll find a diamond in the rough. An 88 on my Open Critic, a diamond in the rough.
Pretty rough there.
Yeah.
Really digging for ore there.
Yeah,
Right.
up in the banger sphere.
You know, as far as 2024, I would say it's the first time in a long time. I'm not really looking forward to anything other than, like I said, Rebirth Island coming back to a lesser degree.
Not Black Myth Wukong?
I'm looking forward to it as a matter of, points in the league that are no longer going to be mine. So, but as playing, no,
I thought you said that game looked good.
It does. It looks sick as hell. I'm not going to play it. I don't like those types of games. It still looks sick.
Fair. I'm also excited to play Dragon's Dogma 2.
Dragon's Dogma, I see. Yeah, other than Paper Mario and the potential of a Switch 2, I just, it's kind of a weird spot to be in. I'm not looking forward to anything. Thankfully, I've got plenty of things to play, so it's not like I will be without, but I'm just sort of biding my time, waiting until I can buy 3-4 Switch or whatever,
I love that that's just become the catch-all for whatever piece of shit launch titles, the schlock that they will expect us to buy, that you apparently will gleefully purchase at full price.
Puyo Puyo Bomberman, all the hits are here.
I will
all
buy
the celebrities.
every system exclusive launch game for a Switch 2, just like I did for the Switch. That's the way it is. I don't fucking make the rules, man. I just abide by them. Okay.
You really don't. It's your cross to bear.
Anyway, how's that for a meandering little bit of a podcast there?
Perfect. Just like the old days.
Right? Nick, I think you really underestimate the old days. I think we had some bangers back then.
This is meandering. It just reminds me of the early 50,
The early 50. This has been the Console Crusade podcast, guys. Listen, you can find us on social media. Go to solo.to/Console Crusade. You can join our Discord server. It's active. We be talking. Come pump those numbers up. Come chat with us. Ask questions. We'll talk about whatever you want on the podcast. Every week we do this. Feedback at consolecrusade.com. Find all the socials over there. For Nick Durheim and Chris Gilby Forer, I'm EJ Olson. This has been the Console Crusade.
Buzz.
I had to do it to him.
Buzz.
Gilby. Damn, he got you. Dead to rights. He's been holding on to that for the past hour and a half.
Oh, dude, it's been right here. I've been waiting
Locked
for
and loaded. He can't plug the URL at the beginning of the podcast, but he will definitely give a B pun to your surname and the final word.
Hell yeah, brother.